Yo guys, I'm Niek from the Produce School and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the new sound of Mathame, which is a faster but still a very melodic type of techno. You might know Mathame from their recent collabs with John Summit and Chesto, but they have been around for a really long time and they have really evolved their style over time. Today I'm going to try to create their style from scratch and show you some cool tips and tricks to achieve their kind of sound. Before I start the video, I want to mention that all the sounds I'll be using in this video are from our sample packs, which you can find in the link in the description. So make sure to check that out if you're looking for some new cool sounds. Without further ado, let's dive straight into this video. Alright, so I'm here in FL Studio and let's start with one of the most important parts of their style, which is a really pumpy, punchy kick. So we're going to find that in our sample pack Eclipse, which contains plenty of melodic techno kind of kicks, also some harder ones that we can use for this kind of style. So let's search one and drag it into the playlist. This one is pretty hard and I think it will still leave us some room for a rolling bass. So let's try to start working with this one, and eventually we could always change it if something else works better. So let's drag it into a mixer slot and make sure the levels are set to the correct volume, because this will make it easier to just make your mix relative to your kick, which is a trick I use all the time. So somewhere around -6 dB will do the job for me most of the time. So that's that for the kick. Let's start by adding a bass. And if you listen to Mathame's sound, you will hear that they use these kind of really low subby bass lines with a rolling bass rhythm. So we're going to try to recreate that, and I will be using Diva for it. And let's just start searching in one of our sound banks for a sound that we can start with. I think a squarey sound like this resembles their sound pretty good. So let's take off the delay and drag down the cutoff, which really gives you that donk kind of low sub sound. And we will adjust some of the ADSR if needed, but it's easier to do that once you created the rhythm already. So just a really simple 1/16 rhythm, which is the typical rolling rhythm that you hear a lot in this style. So let's search for a proper note. Of course, it should be lower. So this one is really low, however we can give it a try. Let's add it to a mixer slot first, make it mono, and add some sidechain. And immediately let me automate the mix level. And we want to have a pretty harsh sidechain, so let's drag this to the right a little bit and keep it on 100%. As you can hear, it really contributes to that groove. And because we really want to have that focus on the sub, let's get rid of some of the high ends, not everything, but just like a subtle cut that will like bring back the focus to the low end a little bit more. You don't want to cut it too steep because you still want to be able to make like a cutoff automation. Won't be audible if you have like a really steep high cut. So make sure to just do something like this until you think it sounds right. And this is what it sounds like right now with the kick, which is very important. So maybe even a bit more harsh sidechain. And let's add a little bit of distortion with decapitator to the bass as well to make it a bit more like gritty. Bring down the mix level. And also make sure that the level isn't too high. I think like this would be a pretty good starting point. I see that I'm working in 130 BPM right now. Let's also even drag that up to like 134. Mathame in their recent releases have really sped up their sound. They used to have those kind of more slow melodic sounds, but it seems like they want some more energetic and big sounding tracks. So I think their latest track with John Summit even has a BPM of like 136, which is really fast. And today we're trying to create their new style, so let's make it a little bit faster as well. Let's drag down the cutoff even more. And we can automate it to subtly open up at some point to keep it interesting. So like this, it sounds pretty nice already. I think adding some heads would be a logical next step, because this would really get us into some kind of rhythmic flow already, if that makes sense. So let's start with adding an open head. And for that, let's search in Eclipse. And you really want a short head that basically just functions as a rhythmic kind of short, sticky element, instead of the real big open heads. So not really a sound like this, but more like this, like a shorter, crispy kind of sound. And then you can even make it shorter yourself right here with this new function in FL Studio. And then just place it on every offbeat, like the regular open head rhythm. And like that, add it to a mixer slot. A little bit of reverb, which will add a bit of depth, but make sure to give it like a minimum decay time and a really tiny bit of wet level. Just adds a bit of depth to like the shorter sound. And let's not forget about a driving head loop. This one could work really well. Let's make sure it fits to the tempo, because it should be a bit quicker. And then add it to a mixer slot as well. Make sure it's not too loud, because then that short open head will basically drown in your mix. Make sure it's a bit more subtle, because this will still have the offbeat groove of the head, but also more of the driving groove on top of the bass line from your head loop. Let's route it to a new mixer track, call it heads. And maybe we can add some more clarity by adding some high frequencies here with the CQ plugin, which is a really useful tool for this. If I would like exaggerate it, it would sound like this. So it really adds that crispy, nice, maybe even kind of analog sound. Just like a tiny bit. And maybe also add a tiny bit of sidechain to make it like blend in a little bit better with the kick and bass. Alright, so sounds really tight already. Let's now move on to the next element, which would be a top melody played by some kind of plucky lead sound. And I already have a sound in mind, which is from our latest pack as well. And it's called Pluck Infinite. And it's this really big saw kind of sound with some unison stacking, which gives that real full sound to it. So let's open up the cutoff all the way. make sure the noise is a little bit less. So right now we want to create a melody, and I would basically describe Mathame's melodies as almost trap or hip hop kind of sounding. And this has to do with the rhythm as well as the notes they choose. A rhythm that they have used in the past and that would work really well to imitate their style would be just placing a note in your melody every time your open head hits. So like this. You could like create some variation, but let's just start with this. And then you can start playing around with the notes. Alright, let's maybe change the bass down to a D. And then try to create something on top of that. That sounds pretty trappy. Let's try that. And then make these notes at every end of the bar a bit longer to add some more variation. Let's see what that sounds in the context. I think that works pretty well. Let's add some swing to it as well to make it even more groovy. Just the main swing here in the channel rack to like 25%. Take off the delay right here and then add it to a new mixer slot once again. Add a little bit of sidechain, but just like 60%, as it's like not really that much interfering with your bass. And then start off with adding a delay. I think we can set it to ping pong mode and do some filtering on it. So like this. And then bring down the wet level to like 30%. This really makes a big difference in how full it will sound. And let's make it a bit more wide with the stereo separation knob right here. And let's add some reverb as well. We can just use the fruity reverb for it. And of course an EQ to get rid of the low end with a pretty steep cut. And add a little bit of treble frequencies. You can also now play around with the noise level in Diva to make sure that it sounds good. And what you will basically get with this rhythm is that the open head, the really short one, will complement and add some more punch to the sound. So if I would like erase it, so that's really nice. Let's drag it into a new pattern and then put it here on top. And in the second part of the drop, we can add some variation. Perhaps just one note change or something. Right here. That sounds pretty nice. Let's just add that to the second part. And the next element would be adding a synth pad to fill up some of the empty space that we have right now, but still have a sound that's really subtle and more pushed to the back. So we can open Diva for that once again and search in our preset pack. And we have one of these sounds, which is this one, I believe, which is really big and subtle at the same time. It gets really big if you open the cutoff, but if you lower the cutoff, you have this really soft and subtle synth pad. But if you play it in a wider range, it will still give you a really full sound in the background. So we're going to utilize that, and we start off with just a simple bass note. And then let's just, for example, add the first note of a minor chord and put it up 2 octaves. And then you will get that really huge sound with just 2 notes. I think this would work. It's really simple, but considering the melody, we have to check it first and also add a little bit of sidechain. Open up the cutoff a little bit more, because as you could see, it only really reached the low mid, and we also wanted to fill a bit more of the mid area. So as you can see, we have now a bit more of mid and high mid frequencies coming through. Make it a bit more pushed to the back by just creating more of a radio kind of filter. And make it a bit wider. Let's add a reverb manually as well. Next up, we can start adding some more drums. And for this, I want to use some more really techno-oriented drums from our Inferno sample pack, which has some really cool sounds in it that I can utilize for this. More of these harder, tighter claps. And I think that will do a great job in this style. So let's try to add a clap in the second part of the drop. And then just make it a bit longer. And add a bit of reverb to it. A little bit of decapitator for some more crisp. We could also play around with the clap rhythm, which is something you hear as well, which is more of an offbeat clap. Which contributes to the groove. Let's make it a bit shorter and then copy this right here. Let's also try to find a percussion loop in here. This one, if we blend it in nicely, could work. Let's make it fit to the BPM and make it like really subtle in volume. Automate the cutoff of the synth pad to make it like more filtered in the beginning of the drop, and then slowly but steady let it open up, like not completely but a little bit more. And I think we can maybe add like a bass shot, really subtle as well. Something more like FM-y. Maybe more of a sound like this. And let's give it a bit of reverb and maybe some delay. And let's add some percussion. Something like this. And in this techno pack we also have some industrial ambiances, and I think we can add it to this as well. Make sure, yes, like this, it fits. and just lower it like almost all the way down. And let's quickly move to a simple build-up as well. And I think we can just use this sound, which builds up a lot of anticipation already, and slowly filter it in together with some FX sounds and some drums. And I think that will sound pretty cool. So let's add an endless small and then automate it to make that really big like washout effect towards the end here. And then make some more impact by using a down filter. And let's also automate the cutoff of this sound right here, so we can slowly fade it in. Together with a riser effect. Let's add a short fill as well from the Inferno pack. Maybe a longer one will work better for this longer kind of build up. Then just make it fade in like this. Of course, we cannot forget about the synths in the build-up. And of course, create an automation so the cutoff opens up all the way in the build-up. Let's add this clap, which we can also use in the drop, like with some reverb. Right. For the build-up, maybe we can add the bass right here already, but then create like a big filter, which filters out all the lows and then slowly brings it in, but not completely, and then the drop hits. So let's open up an EQ and then automate it. So this one, and automate like this. And we can link this automation actually to a new one on the kick drum, and then really create like a filtered effect in the build-up. So like this. So I also found this vocal, which is really usable, I think, for this style. They like to use those kind of spacey, weird vocals. So let's try to blend it in a little bit. First, make it fit to our BPM, and then see if it's in key, which is probably not. Could even work already, I think. So right now it sounds really choppy, but we can add some delay manually, which will prevent that from happening. Maybe normalize it. And bring it down in volume a little bit. Also add like a radio filter, but make it a bit more open. I think this really adds to the project. Make sure if you use it in the build-up to filter it in as well, like equally to the top lead that we're using. I think it will sound really cool. And then towards the drop we can add an endless smile to this as well, to make it sound really huge. Let's search for a tonal FX as well, which we can find here. Something like this. And then make sure it fits the BPM once again, as we're using a sample pack, which is a few BPMs slower. And make sure it is in the right key. Let's now add some more uplifters that are more white noise based. Maybe we can make the pre-drop a bit more subtle with this vocal. It just comes into my mind. Let's try it. Alright, so let's add a little impact here as well. And I think we are like done for the video, because I'm already like recording for almost 50 minutes and I don't want to make this too long. So I think that we got all the main points of their style covered, and I will now show you guys the end result. I'm pretty happy with the end result. As always, I'm giving away the project file to 5 people who leave a comment down below. As I mentioned earlier in the video, all the sounds that I use are from our sample packs, which you can check out in the link in the description. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and if you have any feedback or suggestions, make sure to leave a comment down below as well. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I see you guys in the next video.